Hey everybody, it's Katie from Bobby Hair Studio. Thanks for joining me again today. Today I'm going to take you through a standard process that I do when I'm taking someone from either highlights or balayage to a full bleach out. This can be a really scary approach for a lot of new hairstylists or hairstylists who don't typically do bleach roots. But honestly, it's a lot easier than it looks. You just have to be really meticulous and it does take a long time. So make sure to charge your worth. My client has natural level 7.5 to 8 hair, so this is actually a really simple process for her. Her hair is very healthy because we've been using Blonde Me 7 volume on her for her highlights for a really long time. So her hair is not over processed, and if we do a tiny bit of overlapping, she's going to be totally fine with today's service. So you're going to see how I'm going to turn her from balayage to bleach root. I've started by sectioning her off, and I'm starting with the back of her hair. Now, a lot of hairstylists will tell you not to apply the root first, but with my client having such naturally light hair and the fact that I'm using a low volume with my bleach means that I can actually apply her root at the same time as everything else, because everything else is going into a foil, so it's going to insulate it really well and it's going to lift at the same speed as her root does. I've got my apprentice here holding some foil paddles for me, and he's just getting everything prepared. It does make it a much faster process if you have someone assisting you. And what he's basically doing is while I'm going up the head, I'm asking him to either give me 1 or 2 foils. Now, when he does 2 foils, what I'm doing is I'm pulling out little lowlights that go down into the areas where there's a lot of blonding, and he's letting me put a second foil in the second half of the foil, if it makes any sense. I mean, you'll see it in a second here, but I try to weave out any large obvious pieces that are lowlights right here, and I take a second foil so I protect those blonde pieces, and I put more lightener on top of those lowlights going down, and it's technically a double foil. So this is just a really good way to protect the hair and make sure that you don't overlap too much by trying to use the side of your brush to go down on those highlights when you're trying to get the lowlights. And you guys know my policy with refreshing my bowls as often as I possibly can. And because I am working very quickly and I'm using a lot of lightener at once, I am doing 2 scoops with this client at a time, because otherwise I'm going to be running to the color bar every 2 or 3 minutes with her. I'm trying to use very thin sections, and I'm doing as much saturation as possible in my foils so that she can lift really light and beautifully, because again, I am only using 7 volume, which is all she really needs. You don't need to go heavier with the volume as you're going either, because she's going to have so much insulation with the amount of foils I'm putting in her head. The rest of her hair is going to catch up so fast. I'm going to be doing this type of foiling all the way up the head, so I'm just going to show you a little bit of the back on both sides and a little bit of the side, but essentially I'm just looking for all the dark parts of her hair. I'm applying on the root first with every section that I do, and I'm just trying to make sure that I avoid the areas that are too light to be lifted fully in the foil. And I'm going to show you later what I actually do if I have some areas that are too light to be lifted fully in the foil, but are actually too dark to be considered platinum. So keep your eyes out for when that comes up a little bit later, because it's a very important step and you don't want to miss it. So here I am finishing up her back area and I'm about to start the front. I'm going to show you a few foils up in the front so you can get an idea of what I'm doing, but essentially it is the exact same thing as I did in the back. Because of the density of the hair up in front, I am actually applying a bleach root everywhere to the perimeter first to keep my sections clean and to make sure her baby hairs lift up nicely, because I typically end up going a lot faster in the front and on the top than I do in the back. And again, I'm just going after her natural color and any of her low lights, trying to stay away from anything that's too light to lift up fully in the foil. However, I will be covering over that later, just so that you guys all know I'm not leaving that color out completely. I am going to lighten everything to as light as I can. So as you can see, this is what a foil looks like when it's almost done. There's still a lot of yellow underneath of this bleach, so I'm going to let it sit for a little longer. And I am going to check the one underneath of it because I'm very thorough. Now what I'm doing here is I'm checking with the root and with the foil if everything has been lightened to where I want it to be lifted to, which is like a level 9-10. And I'm combing through any of the bleach that's processed its full way into the ends so that the ends get a really soft, lightweight lightening. They don't get anything hardcore with new fresh bleach unless I need it to lift more, and that's when I'll hand paint on some lightener in through the ends. But right now I'm just combing through the old lightener into the ends to give them a little bit of a boost, to pull out maybe old toner or just brighten them up a little bit. In some areas I don't have quite enough lightener that's kind of old, so I am pulling from some areas from underneath that have old clouded bleach that doesn't have very much power to it. This is also a good time to check underneath of your sections to make sure you did get enough saturation, because if you didn't, you're going to see a lot of orange. So keep that in mind whenever you pull out your foils, to pull them one at a time and double check all those little areas like that right there. I wanted to make sure that I got a stronger bleach on it, so I did mix a volume 7 and Blonde Me bowl just for these little areas when I have a little bit of that orange that needs to be lifted more. Once I'm done doing this, I'm going to let the back sit, and I am going to do the same with the front. However, my camera did die, so I'm not able to show you the front, but it's the same process. I just add the front to the back little ponytails here when the front is done processing in the root. And here she is in the sink here. Now you can see that she has a little bit of inconsistency from the top half of her hair to the bottom half, and that's okay. That's just what's going to happen when you have a full color correction and you try not to break off any of her hair. And she had no breakage, her hair is still super healthy, and that's the most important thing to me. Any of these teeny little low lights that didn't process all the way, we're going to get on her next bleach root application. So, and I also didn't take any notes on my toner formula because I did about 3 toners on her to make sure that her hair was as even as possible. I had to even out her canvas, so unfortunately there's no toner formula for you guys today, because this is not a formula that I use on everybody or anyone. It's one I use on her specifically for this appointment specifically. So I hope that you guys understand, but I did mix up a whole ton of ash and a whole ton of beige so that we could even out her canvas as much as possible. But look at how healthy she is, you guys. She's gorgeous and shiny and healthy.